Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, wow, we're sorting through quite a pile you sent us. It covers, well, everything from these really intense federal policy battles down in D.C. all the way to the daily grind of just finding a safe place to park when your clock runs out.
Yeah, it's a lot, and we're really focusing on the professional driver's experience here, the folks actually moving everything.
Exactly. The people keeping the country running.
And what's striking looking through all this is this central paradox, right? The industry says it desperately needs drivers, good drivers, but those same drivers, they're facing just constant instability.
Yeah.
Things like, regulatory changes that threaten their licenses, these debates about safety versus privacy, and just, frankly, the neglect of the basic infrastructure they need every single day.
It really does sound like chaos.
Yeah.
And the idea behind this deep dive, pulling from sources like Life as a Trucker and others, is to try and see these issues from every angle, to understand how all this instability really impacts you out there on the road.
Precisely. It's not just about listing the problems. Today's conversation, it's about understanding those external pressures, the politics, the rules, but then crucially shifting to how you can maybe build up some internal control, some financial resilience to navigate it all.
Okay, let's get into it then. We probably have to start with the friction around regulations, the political and administrative stuff that's really challenging the CDL itself.
Yeah, first on the list is a big one from the FMCSA. It's about new rules for non-citizens trying to get or renew their CDLs. Basically, the new federal requirement says licenses are only for U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, or folks whose valid immigration status expiration date lines up exactly with the license period.
Okay, that sounds almost like a small detail, an administrative thing. But I was reading in the materials, this could actually knock thousands of legal workers out. How does that work? What's the actual barrier?
The barrier is that alignment thing. So if you're legally here, paying taxes, but your status needs renewing every year or two, think DACA recipients or people with certain temporary statuses, you might not be able to get, say, a 4-year CDL because your immigration document expires sooner.
That's true.
It puts these drivers who've passed background checks, passed the CDL tests, totally legal to work, into this weird administrative limbo.
So thousands of drivers potentially affected.
Yeah.
How's the industry reacting? Are the big carriers fighting this or just accepting it?
It's definitely mixed. You hear some critics saying, oh, it's needed for security or it simplifies things, but then you hear huge frustration from the drivers. They're saying, you keep talking about a driver shortage, but then you make it harder for people legally here who want to do the work.
Right.
A lot of the big carriers are, let's say, quietly pushing for fixes behind the scenes because, well, they rely on these drivers. It's creating real tension.
And then there's this related problem adding to the questions around CDL credibility, these CDL mills. Congress is apparently demanding an investigation now after some really bad accidents. Can you define what a CDL mill is for anyone who hasn't heard the term?
Sure. A CDL mill, it's basically a shady operation, a fly-by-night school that just rushes people through. They care about volume, not safety. They cut corners, sometimes in pretty dishonest ways. It's like one source said, the memorize this test and pray approach.
Get them just good enough to pass a test, barely.
Exactly. Barely enough knowledge to squeak by the skills test, and then poof, the school might even disappear.
Now, this sometimes gets confused with the immigration issue we just talked about, but the sources seem clear. The root cause here is bigger, more dangerous, really.
Oh, absolutely. It's fundamentally a failure of regulation and, just as importantly, enforcement. These mills pop up because, let's be honest, some carriers are desperate for what they call a warm body in a seat, and there's corporate greed involved, willing to look the other way on safety.
So it's not just about who's getting the license.
No, it's about the integrity of the license itself. It's about lives being lost on the highway, public safety, and frankly, it undermines every professional driver out there who got their CDL the right way.
And the legitimate driving schools must be furious.
They are. They actually want better oversight because these low-quality outfits undercut them and put everyone at risk just to make a quick buck. It really shows how systemic failures can damage the reputation of the whole industry.
Okay, so we've talked about roadblocks on paper, the regulations. Let's shift to the physical ones.
Yeah.
Because that chaos often means real wear and tear, right?
Yeah.
On the driver, on the truck. Infrastructure, starting with the infamous truck parking crisis. States are trying tech solutions, I see.
Yeah, that's the sort of ironic part. You see state DOTs rolling out sensors, fancy digital signs, mobile apps showing real-time parking spots. Sounds great, sounds modern. But the raw truth, and everyone in the industry knows this, is that the tech is just It's a Band-Aid, a
Wow.
small Band-Aid on a really big problem.
Why, though? If I can use an app to see an open spot, doesn't that save time?
Well, yeah, it might save you searching time, but it doesn't fix the basic math. You've got, what, over 3.5 million truckers in the U.S. and fewer than 400,000 legal parking spaces. So digitizing the search is fine, but if the physical space isn't there, the driver's still stuck.
The numbers on wasted time I saw were just staggering.
They really are. Drivers losing like 30 to 60 minutes every day, unpaid, just looking for a safe place to park. That's an hour of their life gone, often ending with them having to risk a big fine, maybe $250 or more, parking somewhere unsafe like a ramp because the official lot 50 miles back was already full.
The sources kept using the word respect. Is that really the heart of it? That truckers move, what, 80% of the freight, but there's no budget for a decent place for them to rest?
That's certainly how many drivers see it, and you can understand why. It feels like a lack of respect, and that lack of parking directly leads to safety issues, more fatigue, more burnout, and it connects right into the bigger political jams like that fight between the federal DOT and California.
Right, tell us about that. California was facing a huge cut in highway funds, like $158 million.
Yeah. The U.S. DOT threatened to pull back $158 million in federal highway money. It was over a dispute about Title VI civil rights compliance in how the state handles contracts. California's pushing back, but now that money, which was supposed to go to various projects, is just stuck in limbo.
Okay, but why should a driver in, say, Texas or Florida care about a contract fight in California?
Because that's the money that's supposed to fund things truckers need everywhere. When federal funds get tangled up in these legal fights, what gets cut or delayed first? Usually it's the discretionary stuff, road repairs, building new truck parking, fixing up rest areas.
Ah, so the drivers end up paying the price again.
Always. They're the ones dodging the potholes, dealing with crumbling roads, searching for parking with a glitchy app while their clock is ticking down. They get caught in the crossfire between the feds and the states.
Okay, this is where, for me, it gets really interesting. Drivers are often treated like, cogs in a machine, constantly watched, but we're also seeing these pushes towards more personal control, more well-being.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next-gen safety tech. Is it smart safety, or is it Big Brother in the cab?
It's complicated. It's probably a bit of both, depending on who you ask. Companies are installing AI dash cams, often facing inwards, tracking eye movements for fatigue, stuff like that. Plus, real-time telematics, driver scorecards.
Okay, I can see the upside immediately. If a car cuts you off, the outward cam proves you weren't at fault.
Yeah.
That protects the driver, right? Clears their name instantly.
Absolutely. That's the big selling point from the companies and supporters. Huge benefit in liability cases. But the pushback from drivers, the skepticism, is real, and it's strong. For a lot of drivers, that cab is their space, their home office on wheels.
It feels invasive.
Very. They worry about an AI judging their every move. Like one driver said, one yawn and the camera thinks I'm falling asleep, maybe triggering some alert back at dispatch. It feels like a violation of trust in that personal space.
So the companies want lower insurance premiums, fewer lawsuits, fair enough. But for the driver, the worry is how that data gets used.
Exactly. As a perfect scorecard suddenly needed to get the good loads. Or worse, does a blip on the AI report lead to, mandatory coaching, disciplinary action, maybe even getting fired, even if it was just some minor thing the AI flagged? The big question for you is transparency. How is that data being used? Is it truly for safety, or is it becoming a tool for micromanagement?
Okay, so you have that tense monitoring on one side, but then balancing that, there's genuinely good news out of Minnesota, something that seems to tackle maybe the biggest personal stressor for drivers, getting affordable health care.
Yes, this is potentially huge, a real breakthrough, possibly a model for other states. The Minnesota Trucking Association launched the first ever association health plan, an AHP, specifically for the trucking industry there.
Okay, break that down. Why is an AHP so significant?
Well, the reality for many independent drivers or small fleets, health insurance is either unaffordable or the coverage is terrible. One major health issue can mean financial ruin. AHP has let these small businesses, including owner-operators set up as a business, band together.
Like a buying pool.
Exactly. They get access to large group insurance rates. That means much lower premiums and usually much better coverage, things often missing before, like mental health support, telehealth, which are critical when you're on the road.
That sounds like it directly addresses burnout, recruitment problems.
Yeah.
Just basic dignity, being able to see a doctor without worrying about bankruptcy, this could be massive if other states pick it up.
It really could. It offers some internal stability against these big external market problems. And if you think about it, connecting this back, everything we've discussed, the rule changes, the political fights, the surveillance tech, it all creates volatility, right?
Hmm.
It makes drivers dependent on systems they can't control.
So pulling it all together, what's the takeaway for the listener here? Across all the different commentaries, there seemed to be a really consistent message emerging about managing your time differently.
That's exactly it. That's the thread tying it all together. The message is you can't just rely 100% on the system or the government or even the current freight market to guarantee your stability anymore. The solution that resources like Life as a Trucker are really pushing is internal. It's about training yourself using modern tools, specifically AI, actually to build extra income streams during your off-duty time.
Okay, wait though.
Huh.
I'm picturing a driver, end of a long day, finally parked, dealing with logs, and now they're supposed to jump online and learn AI to start a side business. Is that realistic? What's that learning curve actually like?
That's a fair challenge, and it's definitely not easy. But the argument from the people promoting this is that it's become necessary. They're not saying go get a second full-time job. They're talking about learning specific skills, things you can work on during that downtime you inevitably have waiting for a load, your mandatory rest breaks stuck at a shipper.
So it's about using that forced downtime productively for yourself, not just for the next load. Building a financial defense.
Precisely. Think of it as a financial shield. That recurring online income protects you from the crazy swings in freight rates, the ups and downs of the economy. It means maybe you can retire when you decide to, not just when your body gives out or the market forces you to.
And it's a backup plan too, right? If something happens with your CDL because of a rule change, or your main company goes under.
Your income doesn't just disappear overnight. That's the key. The whole message boils down to building personal resilience. Investing in your own skills during that off-duty time is maybe the best way to actually feel respected and supported because it puts some of the control back into your hands.
So we've definitely seen how politics, tech, regulations are all pulling the industry and drivers in different directions. The consistent theme seems to be, don't just wait for the system to get better. Start building your own stability now, using those hours you spend waiting.
Which, brings up a really interesting final thought. We've talked about drivers using tools like AI to build financial freedom for themselves. And we've also talked about companies using that same kind of AI, the dash cams, the monitoring, to manage drivers. So if the industry demands drivers be these highly skilled pros handling complex trucks monitored by AI, why shouldn't those same drivers leverage that exact same level of technology to build a secure future outside the truck, to make sure they're never really trapped and can define success on their own terms? How can you use that time parked, waiting, stuck to invest in your own security?